Hello, Itzzwan here, and welcome back to another video. Today, we are going to be reviewing the latest New Bloods. Because that's not something which I've not done in a few months, and I still totally don't have some unreleased card review videos. Sorry for Uncomfortable Joe. But before I start, I like to clarify that these are purely my opinions. A lot of the thoughts in this video are based on my first impressions, and you're perfectly allowed to disagree with me. Regardless, let's get straight into it. First up, we have Matilda. Matilda was a bit of a perplexing card to me. The more I looked at her, the more I both understood her and both didn't understand her at the same time. Let me elaborate. On first appearances, her stats appeared very appetizing for a 2-star. She's now the 5th card in All Stars to have a base 8 power, and her damage is perfectly reasonable, with her having the classic 2-star 2 damage. But I just can't really get over her ability. Her ability is Protection Attack, which almost seems a little underwhelming for her, and I can't help but compare her to Ryushin, a card which, on paper, he seems like a great 2-star for his clan, but he's only really useful in circumstances, and due to this, he just rarely gets played because they're just better 2-star options. To make sure this wasn't the case for Matilda, I decided to compare her to all the rest of the 2-stars, and within the clan, whilst there's certainly some competition, for example, Cardigan, Jessie, and Coramel LD, I still think Matilda certainly holds up on her own. The main perk of her is the fact that she's essentially a new and improved version of Stacy. With Matilda, Stacy has pretty much just become redundant. I can see her pretty much becoming a staple for All-Stars, especially in DT, and I can see her just replacing like all Stacys in those DT decks. Whilst I can't vouch for T2, Matilda's ability would definitely be incredibly beneficial in Type 1, since Montanus and Uppers have been on the increase, so to summarise, this card is just essentially Stacy but better in every single way. Since I'm obliged to give this card a number to demonstrate how good they are, I'm gonna give this card an 8.5 out of 10. Next, we have Safra, Upper's latest offering. Immediately, the first thing I thought when I saw this card was, oh wow, this guy's just a budget Satman CR, but in a good way. The main thing which separates Safra and Satman is the fact that, questionably, Safra has actually a better attack manip than Satman himself. Satman can do -14 minimum 1, whereas Safra offers a deadly -20 minimum 3. If you're up against a regular 7-powered card, both cards require you to play 3 pills against them, or 20 attack, just to beat an old. That forced pill gap can be incredibly useful. Regarding Salah's power and damage, I think the staff have perfectly hit the nail on the head when it came to it. Anything more than 5 power would be overkill, plus his 5 damage is rewarding enough to make playing him worthwhile. Whilst I doubt this card will be replacing Oxen or Crystal in any decks anytime soon, I do think this card is a potential substitute for Satman. Please note that I say substitute, not replacement. I can see Safra being highly beneficial for newer players, or any player who's just been wanting to use Satman but hasn't been able to afford him, and due to this, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. Thirdly, we have Sir Lambda, the newest Dominion card. I remember just a couple of days ago, I was having a conversation with Abigail Wyatt. P.S. thank you for doing the little doodles which you can see in the corner of the screen right now. But back to the point. In our conversation, I said that I liked Dominion, however, they still needed a firm opening card. Sir Lambda is potentially that card. From the get-go, I know cards like Battler, Doombones, or Death Adder, if you're rich enough to afford him, are already way more favoured when it comes to your go-to 5-star. However, I can't help but think Sir Lambda has a couple steps above all of them. Sure, Axe Battler has his attack manip and a higher damage, but his power is a bit underwhelming, and I can't help but think almost he might work a bit better in the second round opposed to the first one. And sure, Goombone's backlash is minimal in round 1 as he does have a growth ability, but I think he works far better in the late game, whereas base 8 power towers against any card affected by Dominion's bonus. So what makes Sir Lambda more appealing over these cards? Well, simply to put, his ability. Lambda's ability is degrowth plus 1 life. This means that if you win the first round with him, you inflict 5 damage and you also gain 4 life for yourself. That's a nice 9 guy flap. That's a nice 9 guy. That's a nice 9 guy. That's a nice 9 life gap. Jesus. Even including Death Adder, that is the best life gap any current 5-star in Ghost Town can currently offer. If you win that round and didn't get hit by SOA, then you can play a card like Orca, to minimise any damage in round 2, Lordoon to force him to play some pills, or even Stoneheart to gain an extra pill or 2 before going for the win in either round 3 or round 4, aided by the true power of the Dominion's bonus. That's why I see Sir Lambda as a highly promising opening card for Dominion. Of course, this card does have its downsides. His stats are average for a 5-star, and his low damage does make Axe Battler seem more appealing of a card to play over him. Lambda also does take up a lot of space in your deck, whereas you could use cards like Itzzwan or Sagao, who are arguably just as good as opening cards. This card also isn't ideal for offensive players, and for those who are looking for 2-hit KOs, he's way more of a defensive card. Finally, this card is massively hindered by SOA. Without its ability, he is pretty much useless. Whilst I like how this card could theoretically work with Dominion's bonus, I'm giving him a 7 out of 10. Finally, the card we've been all waiting for, Sobek. You know how a lot of clans as of late have been getting cards which are essentially as powerful as Big 5s? Well, Sobek is questionably Jungo 5's Big 5 in air quotes. Sobek essentially takes the best parts of Jennifer and Tornado and just fuses them into one almighty and powerful card. This card is the third 9-power offering from Jungo, and it is easily my favourite card out for free. There's one word which perfectly sums up why I like this card so much: versatility. This is a quality which I think all of the best cards have. With thanks to Sobek's towering 9 power and respectful 6 damage, he's a card which can offer a lot of destruction. Paired with his bonus, he's virtually a 9/8, which is threatening for any player. However, at the same time, he is single-handedly one of the best defensive cards out there. His defeat plus 5 life makes him better than both Enio and Hydra Erether, and in my opinion, he only falls behind Grax, Seraphina, and Nemo. The fact that it can be played so offensively or so defensively is what makes Sobek so appealing. If you play him, you force your opponents into a massive mind game where either he needs to decide whether you're going to play a lot on Sobek, forcing him to try and PP you, or whether you go down the opposite route and ult him, making him potentially overpill against you. As to address the title of this video, is Sobek now Jungo's best cards? It's highly debatable, but I'm just ever so obliged to say no. Ong's minus 3 power still completely dominates this card, plus Byron and Sylph CR's poison are appealing in their own rights. Unless you have a massive life gap against your opponent, Sobek is still better off being played in the first 2 rounds as his ability does not make you invincible. In a practical sense, Sobek isn't a card which you can just put in any deck. If you're using him, you're sacrificing the option of playing other cards which may be far better in your instance, and with this, Jennifer may be a safer bet. She offers most, if not practically all of the same benefits of playing Sobek, and she'll be only a fraction of the price that Sobek will be. Despite all that, I think Sobek is still an extraordinary card, as there are just so many ways you can utilise and play him in a deck. Due to this, I just have to give him a 9.25 out of 10. So those are my opinions on the latest New Bloods. Let me know what you guys think. Did I go too kind on one card? Do you think I was too generous on another card? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Until then, I'll most likely see you in a couple weeks for the next New Bloods review. I've been Itzzwan, thanks for watching, and goodbye.